burning down pretty good now. Just wasted all this time and effort. Let's give this another shot. Oh, welcome back to another episode from Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. I'm Bill, glad you could join me. In this episode we're going to construct a primitive fishing setup and conclude the video by going out and actually using it to catch some fish. Stay tuned. Okay, well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to reverse wrap a very thin piece of cordage, and that is going to be our fishing line. This is yucca fibers. This is the yield from 3 average size yucca leaves, and at the end of this video I'll include footage and instructions on how to process these down and separate the fibers. So what we'll do is, this is really strong. Yucca is probably the strongest out of all the botanical fibers. I call it botanical sinew. And it makes a very strong cordage. In fact, some Native American tribes even made bowstrings out of this, if it's constructed properly. So we're going to begin by doing a thin reverse wrap on this, and we'll probably end up with around, I don't know, 15 foot of cordage, something like that. Stay tuned, we'll get started. Okay, well, my camera shut off, and for some reason shut itself down, and I just lost some footage, so I'll just have to start over again. Okay, so I chose just 2 strands out of the bundle, and I staggered the ends. In other words, the ends here are not starting at the same point. In other words, they're not way back here together. I pulled about 6 inches of cordage out. You don't want your splices to be adjacent to one another. It weakens your cordage, if that makes any sense. So instead of this end being up here even with this, I just staggered the ends, so it's about 6 inches back. These are 2 strands. Each strand can hold probably a couple of pounds, so by doubling this over, we're going to have 4 strands. So say each strand holds 2 pounds, that'll be 2 times 4, it'll be 8 pounds total, and it just increases the tensile strength of the cordage. So I have water down here, and I processed this cordage out a few days ago, and to let it dry. If you do it green, you can do it with freshly green harvested fibers. But the problem with that is as they dry, they shrink, and then you're going to have your cordage, your wraps on your cordage are going to loosen up. So it's best to let them dry, and then when you get ready to do it, you can just dampen them down, and it helps. It's easier to deal with if it's damp, and it gives your fingers a little something to grip to. Okay, so we're going to choose a spot that's roughly in the middle of the cordage here. And what we're going to do, we're going to twist. We're going to twist this side away, this side towards, this side towards, this side away. And as we twist it, we're putting torque into the cordage. And it's going to fold over onto itself just like that. Okay, so you can hold that. Now to do the reverse wrap, we twist, grab that bottom strand and rotate it towards you, or counterclockwise. Twist, away, grab that bottom strand, roll it towards you, and every time you do that, you can advance your fingers here, your thumb and your index finger, to pinch and hold it. Twist, away, twist, and rotate. So we're twisting the top away, grabbing that bottom strand and just rotating it towards you. The top goes over the bottom, top over the bottom, rotate. You can already see we have cordage starting here. Twist and pinch. Twist, pinch. It's a little windy out here, it's blowing my cordage around. This is all repetitious. Once you've done it for a while, you really won't even think about it. You just kind of go into autopilot. See, here's our cordage. This eye here at the bottom is where we will attach our leader. The leader is going to be a single strand doubled over. It'll be thinner than the main line. You see, when we let go of it here, everything's getting jumbled up here. When we let go of it, it twists onto itself. There's torque there. This is how primitive people constructed their cordage long before the store-bought variety came along. It is tedious. But when you go primitive, everything's labor intensive. And I'll tell you, when you go full primitive without the aid of a knife, you really gain a whole new appreciation. Wetting my fingers again here. A whole new appreciation for something as simple as a knife. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this. It's just repetitious. When we get down towards the end of this, we're going to have to run a splice. There's our cordage. So this whole thing is repetitious until we reach the end of one of these strands. This is the longer end here. This is the shorter end. So when we get down pretty close, we'll have to run a splice. We'll add a splice. We're going to put one strand in and incorporate it into this. So when we get to that point, I'll go ahead and I'll come back and I'll show you how to put that, add that splice in, so you guys don't fall asleep on the other end there, watching me twisting away on this. You can see I've been working on this for only a few minutes, and I already have that much cordage, about 2.5 inches or so. Stay tuned, I shall return. Okay, so we're getting down. Here's what we have so far. As we're wrapping down here, remember, we had started out with 2 strands doubled over, so we have 2 strands on both sides. So you can see we have 2 here. Remember, we staggered the strands when we started out, so we're coming to the end of one of the strands. So when you get down to the end, see, if we keep wrapping, we'll be down to 1 strand here. So what we're going to do is give this another twist or two. We're going to incorporate a strand into this. So we're going to grab a strand of fiber, throw a little moisture on it, gives it a little grip. Now when you incorporate a splice, you want to put it right into the V here, right into the V. Just lay it in, and it's going to become part of that other strand, if that makes any sense. Just like that. Never mind the tag end sticking out. Just ignore that. When we're done with the cordage, we're going to have quite a few of those sticking out, and we'll go back and we'll trim those off. See, now we have 4 strands again. 2 on this side, 2 on that side. And you just repeat the pattern. Keep doing the wrap and the twist, working your way down, and when you get down near the end of a side, you just lay another strand in there on the side that is going to be short a strand as you get down to the end. Hopefully that makes sense. Like anything else, it just takes practice. So see, we continue wrapping and twisting. Wrap and twist. It's all repetitious. The better you do your splices, the stronger the cordage is going to be overall. Wrap and twist. So, you know, this one will be the next side. These two strands are long. This is where the splice was put in. That's the long splice we just laid in. Now this is the other side. You can see we're getting down towards the end of this one. So we'll be doing the same exact thing on that side here pretty soon. And you just incorporate the same method. You just lay another piece in, and you just continue, and it's so on and so forth. There's a splice where we laid the splice in. We'll go back, we'll tag those, trim those tag ends off. So this is what we have so far. It actually comes together fairly quick. You just repeat the pattern until you get the length of the cordage that you desire, and then when I get to the end of this, I'll come back and I'll show you how to terminate this piece of cordage. Stay tuned. Okay, I've got about 12 foot of cordage here, and I'm reaching the end. So just a couple more twists, and then I'm going to terminate this. One thing about cordage making, it'll teach you a lot of patience. So how we're going to terminate this, just a little bit further here, and then how we're going to terminate this is we're just going to tie a single overhand knot into the end. Just like that, just a single overhand. And that will secure everything, and then we can just trim off the ends. And I need to go back over this and clean it up. So you're going to have your splices, your tag ends sticking out from your splices. All of these you just trim off down near your cordage. Don't cut your cordage. I need to straighten this all out. It's kind of a mess. More tag ends here, so you just go along your line and just cut those off, clean it up, and then what I'm going to do at the top, where we terminated with the single overhand, I'm going to install a little wrist loop back here, and that way it'll slide over. I'm just going to handline with this. I mean, you could tie it to a pole if you want to, but I'm going to do a single overhand on a bite back here in the back, just big enough to slip over onto my wrist. That way I won't accidentally, if a fish gets on the end and it pulls it out of my hand or whatever, it'll still be attached to my wrist. So it's just a little fail-safe to make sure you don't drop your line and lose it. And so I'm going to go ahead and work on this, and then the next segment we're going to work on a gorge hook. Get the gorge hook done. We're going to make a leader for this, and the leader will attach at the bottom. That's also going to be an overhand, a small overhand, a single overhand on a bite at the end, and we'll attach the leader with a lark's head. And then we're going to go over how to process a yucca leaf and turn it into fiber, workable fiber. Dates back thousands of years. It's the original way that primitive man used to catch fish. Well, with the exception of using his hands or probably spears. But the gorge hook should be made from hardwood, preferably. I have a stick here that I found, and usually for panfish, your gorge hook is going to be about 1 inch to 1.25 inches in length. I'm going to be fishing a creek when I demonstrate this for spotted bass. It's actually my childhood creek I grew up on, so they have fairly large mouths. They're not really big though. The creek's actually overloaded with them, so they don't get really big. You're talking probably 10 inches, somewhere around there. 8 to 10 inches. You can find some bigger ones in there, but due to the overcrowding, they don't get really big in there. So the general rule, some people make their gorge hooks about 1/4 inch in diameter. I'm going to be fishing with worms, so I want to be able to thread a worm onto the gorge hook. So I'm going to go take it down to probably, since the fish aren't really big, I take it down to probably a little over 1/8 of an inch in diameter. So right now I'm just going to reduce the diameter. You want it a little bit fatter in the middle, and then you want to taper it to sharp points on the end, and then we're going to put a little notch in the middle where we'll connect the line to the fishing line to it, the line that we've been working on. It's pretty neat. If you've never used one of these, it's pretty neat how they work. And they actually work pretty well as long as you pair the size of the gorge hook up with the size of the fish that you are after. If you're going after larger fish, obviously you want a much larger gorge hook, and one that is that has a thicker diameter. Otherwise it'll just break on you. You'll lose your fish. Fish I'm going after are pretty small, so I'm going to do this accordingly. And according the size, it'll be according to what we're going to try and fish with here. So we'll just bring this size down. I want to be able to thread a worm onto this night crawler. If it's too fat, I won't be able to do so. Yeah, it's not doing too bad. This is what we have so far. So that's a nice sharp end on that. I want to thin this down just a little bit. It's got to be able to get a worm onto it. And I'm thinking the size, since they have fairly big mouths, I'm thinking probably about to here. So we're looking at probably about a good 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. A beaver chew around this now so we can break it off and I could start working this other side. And I'm going to make a few more extra gorge hooks just in case something happens, the leader breaks and I lose my hook. I'll have some spares. Well, it broke here, so a little bit harder to work with now because I don't have that much to hang on to. See if we can break this off. There we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and taper this side down now. It's a little more difficult now because there's less to hang on to. Just need to thin it a little bit in the middle here. I think we're pretty close. Whoop. This is what we have. And that's probably about an inch, probably almost an inch and a half. Nice and sharp on the ends. Be easy to thread a worm onto that. So what we're going to do is, some sources say to place your notch all the way around the center, because this is where we're going to attach the line, right in the middle. But since this is so thin, if we went all the way around the center, it's going to greatly reduce the strength of this. This is actually pretty strong. So what I'm going to do, very light right in the middle, I'm just going to shave out a very shallow the way this is going to be baited, you don't really have to worry about the hook coming off the line. And then instead of going all the way around, we'll just go to the other side excuse me, and just lightly shave it there. That way we're not compromising the strength of this. This also helps too with the depressions. When the line is wrapped around here and tied off, that it kind of countersinks the line. If you remember, a worm has to slide over this and the line when it's baited. Alright, so this is what we have. So it's just slight depressions on two sides. And that should work okay. So now we'll go ahead and process, I'm going to demonstrate how to process a yucca leaf into fibers. Oh, actually we have to make the leader first. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. Might as well do that right now. Just save the rest of these for other gorge hooks. Okay. To process this, there's a couple different ways. As I mentioned in the beginning, some people smack them on. You can whip it against a, this is the part where it's cut off. You can repetitiously keep hitting this until it finally breaks the fibers down. It looks like a paintbrush on the end. I don't do it that way. How I do, just seems to work better for me. I just take a knife. Some people use a spoon. If you're going full primitive, you can use a rock. You don't want anything that's sharp though. So I'm not going to use the sharp edge of my blade. I'm going to use the 90-degree spine. And you just shave this outer green layer off. And you don't have to get it all. You're just thinning the leaf. Whatever surface that you're doing this on, you want to make sure that the surface is flat, that you don't have jagged pieces sticking up. So that'll also act to damage your fibers. 90-degree edge on your bushcraft knife works very well for this. So all you do, you just scrape this down. I always scrape from the base to the tip. Kind of goes with the grain. Otherwise the leaf has a tendency to roll and ball up. As you are working it. You can see those fibers. See those fibers starting to stand up now. It's thicker as you get down to the base, so you get a little more aggressive with the scraping, thinner as you get to the top. You get down here, you can scrape towards the tip. It only wants to, it seems to want to ball up on you towards the top edge where it's thinner. Okay, that's one side. I'm going to go ahead and work on this other side, and I shall return. Stay tuned. Okay, you can see when that outer sheath, that coating, is scraped off, the leaf loses a lot of its rigidity. It's still rigid down here, it's very thick. So breaking down a yucca leaf, rather, just grab it right in the center of the leaf here, and in the center, and pull it apart, just like this. And the idea when you separate these, you want to get the long pieces, the long fibers. They're a lot easier to work with when you're making cordage, and it makes your cordage making go a lot faster and easier. You have less splices to put in. So you're just halving it. Center of the leaf, roughly center, doesn't have to be exact, but fairly close. So you're halving it and then just pulling it apart. You're reducing it down. You pull it. And again, we're going to half this down. And again, now if you're working on big cordage, you're going to make a rope. I mean, you don't have to reduce it down all the way. You don't have to get it down, like even with this little fishing line that we're making here, I haven't reduced it down to individual fibers. I've got them down to probably 3 or 4 fibers per bundle. So if you get little pieces like that, you can discard it. It's going to break off. Little pieces you can get rid of. So that's a usable piece here. See, that tore good. That tore along its entire length, and it left us with a couple of good pieces here. So we can come over here. You just pull it apart. Now this is a nice piece of fiber right here. So I just take my fibers and I just drape them over something, just like I've done with those in the back there. And if they get real small, you always have these thick ends too. And this has more of the, that's towards the base. You can just take your thumbnail, you can strip that outer sheath material off. It'll thin it down and it becomes more pliable and workable at that point. And you can start it at the thick end. I'm not going to keep that small piece because I'm reducing down. So here's a decent usable piece. Just strip that coating right off. Again, we have the thick end here. Each of these bundles, this bundle's one leaf. That's the result of one leaf here. That one back there I've been working off of building the line, and originally was three leaves. This is where your fingernails come in handy. There we go. Got a nice fiber here. This one here is fine. Remember, that thick end's going to have more of that sheath, that coating on it. You can always start it on that thick end right in the center. It's kind of the exception to the rule. See, now it's splitting all the way down its length here. All the way to the end. That's what we want. Boom. We've got two really good strands here. Doesn't look like a single leaf when you start out would produce that much fiber, but they do. That one split off a little early, but that's still a good piece. Just split it right down the center here. That split all the way down its length. Those are nice long usable pieces here. This one could actually be split and reduced again. The further you break your cordage down, the finer the quality of the cordage your finished product will be. Do a quick check here on memory. So I'm going to go ahead and work this down. My card's getting short on memory, so I'm going to go ahead and work this down. I'll fade back in a bit, and then we'll do a quick leader, and that'll be it for today. Stay tuned. So welcome back. I finished processing the leaf down, and this was the yield from that one leaf. One leaf produces an amazing amount of cordage. And that is how to process a yucca leaf. At least the method I use, and it works pretty good. Okay, so we're going to make a leader. Go ahead and wet it down. I selected one long piece, one long strand, about the longest that I could find in my bundle. It's going to be basically the same thing, but since we're not going to add any splices to this, we can go ahead and start off in the center here. So we have our approximate center, doesn't have to be exact. And just as we did earlier, we're going to twist this. Going to twist it until it kinks over on itself, just like that. Put that torque in the line. And now the ends are more or less even. They don't have to be exact, but... And then just like we did with the cordage making, we're going to go ahead and start the reverse wrap. One end of this will tie onto the gorge hook, and since this is a smaller diameter than the main line, 2 strands smaller, it'll be a little easier to slide the nightcrawler over the gorge hook without having the line running interference. So I'm going to go ahead and that's what we have so far. I don't know if you can see that. That's what we have so far. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up and shall return. Stay tuned. Had to change sides. The sun was getting on me. So here's the leader. Where we started, right here. So here's the top. Whoop, sorry guys. It's the leader. So we'll terminate this. We're going to fold this over. We're going to form a bight, B-I-G-H-T. And we're going to put a single overhand. Call it overhand on a bight. A very small one up here. There we go. And there's our bight, our loop. Whoop. That's just a single overhand. Make sure it's snug. Don't want that coming loose. Okay, then down here is where we're going to tie the gorge hook on. And up here, at the end of our main line, we'll have another single overhand on a bight. This will go through the loop, and then we'll run this and the gorge hook through here to form a lark's head to hitch it to the main line. And that will be our leader here. Once it's tied on, it's not going to be much of a leader, but be a little bit of a leader here. Probably about that long once we tie it onto the gorge hook. So we will do all of that out on the creek on the day that we're getting ready to go fish. We'll go over hooking all this up in the gorge hook and then go and catch some fish. Stay tuned. I'll see you there.